Hi, I'm Mike Hammond. What follows is episode 25 of Detective Story, our interview with former Chief of Detectives Melissa Staples. It was a fun interview. Melissa's an amazing human being who rose to one of the most prestigious positions on the Chicago Police Department. I'm very proud of the interview, but I wanted to take a moment here to put this in perspective just a bit. We recorded this interview on April 1st, 2026. The following morning, I received word that Crittenden County Deputy Sheriff Rick Coyle was shot in the line of duty. Rick was a school resource officer and deputy with the Crittenden County Sheriff's Department. He was shot while working on the street, serving like an emergency guardianship paperwork to a subject who opened fire on Rick and the other deputies. The bad guy's dead, so that's all that needs to be said about that guy. But Rick was shot in the head, was taken to the hospital. He fought, but unfortunately on April 30th of 2026, last week, Rick succumbed to his injuries and passed away. Rick was not only a Crittenden County School Resource Officer, Deputy Sheriff, he was a retired Chicago police officer, a guy I worked with in special operations in 11th District on the west side. Great guy, great policeman, fun guy, funny guy, smart guy, tactical guy, tough guy, everything you want in a police officer. And he served this city with pride and dignity. He often would take his family down to Kentucky for vacations and that. Him and another great officer we worked with, Dale Willingham, they would take their families down there to Kentucky. They enjoyed it. When they retired, they moved down there. Rick, by all accounts, served Crittenden County and the school system there with great honor. There's a really great video recorded sometime before his death, interviewing some of the people in the school and the children in the school he worked in, and they spoke so highly of him, respectfully. They not only felt safer in his presence, but they enjoyed his presence. It was an emotional thing, but cool thing to watch. And I'm proud to have known him, and we mourn his loss. My thoughts are with his family, with Dale Willingham's close buddy and his family. I'd like to thank Crittenden County Sheriff Evan Head. In the interviews I've seen, he really represented himself in the department and Rick with honor. And we really appreciate here in Chicago and Chicago Police Department him taking Rick into their family. I'd also like to acknowledge Chris Evans, who's a reporter with the Crittenden County Press. Wrote a great article about Rick after he was shot and was a friend of Rick's, and it really kind of kept me in the loop as to what was going on during that time period that Rick was fighting for his life. I appreciate that. And lastly, I'd like to thank the people of Crittenden County, Kentucky and Marion, Kentucky for taking Rick and Dale and their families in. It means a lot to us, and I know it meant a lot to them. There's a memorial service for Rick this Friday, which will be May 8th, 2026, 2 p.m. at the Rocket Arena there in Marion. The family asks that you, in lieu of flowers, that you make donations to one of two groups. I'll list them here, but just so you've heard them, they are the supportingheroes.org and the cpdmemorial.org, our Chicago Police Memorial, which is very close to our hearts. We appreciate the family for doing that, and please make donation if you can. We appreciate that a great deal. We will miss Rick. And then about the time that I was going to release this episode originally, and I noted this in my social media, but on Saturday, the 25th of April, 2026, Chicago police officers John Bartholomew and Nelson Crespo were shot at Swedish Covenant Hospital while transporting a prisoner. Officer Bartholomew died on scene, unfortunately. Officer Nelson Crespo continues to fight for his life. He's still critical condition, severely injured, but the fight goes on. We're praying and hoping for his recovery. We're praying and thinking of John Bartholomew's family. It's a tough time, obviously, for them, but it's a tough time for the city of Chicago, and it's a tough time, especially for the Chicago Police Department. The John Bartholomew's family has asked in lieu of flowers that you make a donation, if you can and would like, to the John Bartholomew Memorial Fund, which is being taken care of by the Police Federal Credit Union, which is located at 1407 West Washington Boulevard, Chicago. I'll link all that stuff in the show notes here, so you don't have to remember it. I just wanted you to hear it. I also want to acknowledge, we often these days are let down by our leaders, and we wonder, how did this person end up in that spot, and how we just don't feel very comfortable with our leaders. But I want to acknowledge Superintendent Larry Snelling. I'm sure that we met over the years, but I don't know him well personally, but I could not be more impressed with the way Superintendent Snelling has handled himself. He has stood up like a man, taken accountability, and stood up for the Chicago Police Department, stood up for the people of the city of Chicago, and spoke eloquently, directly, without any bullshit, in a very difficult time. And I appreciate that. It means a lot to me personally. I think it means a lot to the people of the city of Chicago. It certainly means a lot to the Chicago Police Department. So, Superintendent Snelling, I appreciate it, sir. That's all I got. I will say, I don't want to go too far off the rails here. It's freaking painful. It's not about me. I mean, we are a family, but it's not. We are just a family of policemen. We are a family in Chicago. And if we don't hold these people accountable that we elect to these positions, we're not safe, and I don't care what you think about police officers, the Chicago Police Department, or what your gripes may or may not be. You have to think about your community. Do you want your community to be safe? Hell, do you want your kids safe walking down the street, playing out in front of your yard? There are places in this city where that can't be, right? They don't have that luxury. We all bear responsibility in this, and if a John Bartholomew and a Nelson Crespo aren't safe wearing our uniform, none of us are safe. Your children are not safe. Don't kid yourself. And what can you do? Make these people that we vote onto these benches and into these high offices and into these aldermanic spots, hold them accountable. Don't vote for them again. Hold them accountable. That is the power that you have in your hand. And to deny it is to deny your own safety and the safety of the people in your community. That's where it starts and ends. I bear as much responsibility as everybody else out there. Own it. Please do something about it. All right. That's all I got. On with the episode. I hope you enjoy it. It would have been a much different interview had we known then what we know now. But still, you get a look at what it's like to be the chief of detectives, the second biggest police department in the United States, and the responsibility that entails. And nobody articulates her stance better than Melissa Staples. So please take care of yourself and take care of each other. Thank you.
I call 911 and this old school state trooper shows up. And I'm like, this is the plate. And I go, and this is what kind of car it is that took off. And he was like, okay. And he runs the plate. And he's like, that's not what kind of car it is. And I'm like, my dad and brother are gearheads, and I'm telling you right now, that's what kind of car it was. And he puts out a flash, and they end up getting the car, and I was right. So this old school state trooper is like, girl, you should be the police. And I'm like, really?
We'll be back after a quick break.
I'd like to take a moment from the program to have a real talk about safety and security. Toward that end, I would like to introduce you to my friends over at Blue Knight Security Solutions, your ultimate partner in protection. Blue Knight Security Solutions isn't just your average check your ID at the door security company. They're a team of elite detectives, investigators, and law enforcement professionals with unparalleled expertise. Especially in this realm, I would not vouch for just anyone. I confidently endorse Blue Knight, however, because I've seen and I know their skill sets firsthand. Whether you need their real-world investigative prowess or securing your home, business, synagogue, church, or event, Blue Knight has you covered. From risk assessment to tailored security plans, they'll ensure your safety is priority number one. Please don't get caught in the trap of having the illusion of security. Make sure you are actually making yourself, your loved ones, businesses, and community actually more secure. Blue Knight Security Solutions provides street-smart operators who can handle any situation. Heading out for the evening? Worried about your kids heading out safely? Forget the uncertainty of ride shares or cabs. Blue Knight offers secure transportation with trained security operatives who prioritize your safety every step of the way and will get you where you're going with the confidence that you're well protected. Contact Blue Knight Security Solutions today at 773-706-4920 or visit BlueKnightSecuritySolutions.com. That's night like Knights of the Round Table. BlueKnightSecuritySolutions.com. Don't forget to mention my name, and I promise they'll make you feel like family because your peace of mind matters. Hey, welcome back to Detective Story. Thanks for joining in. We really appreciate it. We got a great episode for you and a cool announcement. First of all, please, if you enjoy it, hit that like and subscribe button. It really means a lot to us, helps us get content out there. We got a lot of people that listen that aren't subscribed. So just hit the subscribe button. Nobody's going to bother you. You're not going to get any crazy phone calls. Maybe Chris, but he's pretty cool to talk to on the phone. Now Melissa too might call you, but like and subscribe. And the other cool thing we got going, we have partnered with Gun Barrel Coffee, which is, you can see I got some of their coffee up here behind me. They're a local coffee company that I met the owner, Saldazo, great guy, big supporter of veterans, first responders, police, fire, medical workers. He donates $1 of every sale to first responder, veterans charities. And he makes really good coffee. That was the caveat. Like, I'm not a big coffee drinker. I like it when I'm having a cigar, occasionally. But like my kids, people in my life that are big coffee people, I gave them some and they were like, this is good coffee, man, really good. In fact, my daughter has switched to it. So that was the big kicker, right? And so also, he was cool enough to give us a discount code. So you can go to his website at gunbarrelcoffee.com and pick out what you want to buy. With it in mind, every portion you spend, $1 of it's going to go to a charity related to first responders. And put in the coupon code Detective10 and you get 10% off. So that's pretty awesome to me. So with that said, that's business. The business end of it. Also, our Patreon channel. Please go check out our Patreon channel. Another way to support us. Now for $5, you can get all the extra content that's there. I talk about stuff that I don't really want to talk about on the podcast so much. Safety, things like that, because we try and keep the focus here about victims, families, stuff like that. So you get a lot of extra content. You also get we put our episodes out there, content, commercial free, a little earlier than we put them like on YouTube and the Spotify, Apple stuff. So I think it's worth it, and it helps us out a great deal. So now for that.
It's also the only place that you're going to be able to watch our live wrestling match.
True. Correct. That's upcoming, and there'll be notifications on that. That is pay-per-view. Right. I look forward to that, actually.
My money's on you, Chris.
He's been working out. This guy, he made a national power load. I'm taking that seriously now. I really am. It's good. I'm not joking around. Anyway, so Gun Barrel Coffee, please check them out. They do good stuff and they make really great coffee. And we always have great guests. We're so lucky, you know what I mean? Chris and I to have good people. And probably as you don't hate to quantify him or qualify him, but certainly one of my favorite people and one of my favorite guests you've ever had on the show, and the highest ranking without question
So far.
My close friend, former chief of detectives of the Chicago Police Department, Melissa Staples, is with us. Melissa, thank you so much for being here with us.
Glad to be here.
That's what's up.
You're my
Appreciate
friend.
it.
We've known each other for 30 years, and I'm going to be 60 this year, and that's just, it's crazy,
Welcome to the club.
right?
Yeah.
You heard it all the time,
you
though.
guys
Well, my
are-
grandmother
you
would
guys are
say it's
old.
bad.
All right, Chris. No, I have loved and adore you since the moment I met you, and you're just a great guy, and you were a great detective, and I'm honored to do this for you.
Thank you
For
so
those,
much.
for those of you not from Chicago, right now there's two powerhouses at the table, and I'm not one of them. So it's a pretty exciting episode. This is going to be fucking awesome.
What more importantly is 2 of the 3 here are Hoosiers at heart.
That's correct.
There is
I hadn't thought about that.
there is no higher calling
You're right.
than
A couple of Hoosiers. She's sitting with a couple of
What's
Hoosiers.
that scene in Outlaw Justice? I've never been fond of Hoosiers. Does she say
It's
that?
an acquired taste. but-
Doesn't she say that?
Yeah, she does.
I've never been fond of Hoosiers either.
That's right. That's correct. Outlaw Josie Wells. Good call. All right, before we get started, though, Chris, you got anything?
No, this is just an exciting episode. Fasten your seatbelts because this is going to be a good ride. I'm super excited. I've been waiting for this for a really long time. This has been in the works, and there's been conversations about getting Melissa on and then getting Melissa on. This is just, I think, to put it into some context, right? The city of Chicago, as I've learned today, has doubled the murders of a city like Los Angeles and New York City, which is shocking to me, triple the shootings, and is doing the work that it's doing detective-wise with half the number of detectives. For those of you that are not from Chicago, being the chief of detectives is a really big deal. Oversees, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, all the homicide investigations.
we do about 300,000 cases a year. I mean, I've been retired for 4.5 years now, going on 5, and you know that data, and I've been gone. I don't know if they've supplemented the detective manpower since then, but back in 2016 when I took the position, that was the data. Like typically, historically over the last 20 years before when I was chief, we'd have about 1,300 detectives on average, and like every 4 years, you would promote about 500 detectives. Every 3 or 4 years to keep up with attrition, because you don't want seasoned, experienced, say, homicide detectives, for example, but all the detectives are important. If I say dicks, I mean detectives, because that's what we call each other. But like you have great people, like great detectives like Mike here, and a ton of other ones that are walking out the door without bringing in the new
blood,
detectives to like take them under the wings and teach them the ways. So it was tough.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit on the last episode with Michelle Wood and Marco Garcia, and that, I made detective in September of 2000. And at that time, there were so many detectives, particularly homicide detectives, that were like 30 years in the detective division, 40 years on the
And they were
job.
like my dad, like Chernow, Walsh, Putin,
Yeah.
all those guys. I mean, phenomenal. And they, come here, kid.
Yeah.
And they took you under their wings and they taught you the way.
They really did. I mean, it was. Working in Area 4 at that time was. I mean, everybody thinks their generation's the best, and their this and that.
Because we were.
Our music was right, but man, it was for a guy like me with a lifelong desire to be a homicide detective, and then feeling like really lucky to be able to get that position. I walked into a absolutely perfect scenario with great bosses, including yourself, and fantastic detectives with a vast experience in every element of doing homicide work. And it was a great environment. But within about 10 years, I found myself being more and more senior all the time, and those guys being gone. So now here I am with 10 years in the detective division and 16 years on the job.
And you're one of those guys that everyone looks up to.
Or ask questions of, and I'm like, well,
listen, kid.
look, you're all right.
What I would do if I were you.
Don't bother me with that shit, kid.
Hey, let me ask a quick question. because I was there for the beginning with Mike. You know, I was there when he was in the academy. I watched him go through the academy. We had intimate conversations about what his career goals were, what he wanted out of being a Chicago policeman. You know, it was from the get-go. I knew he wanted to be a detective. You know, there was a path that he wanted to follow to get to detective, and he was going to work his ass off to get there. From the moment, let's say what you wanted to get out of being a Chicago policeman and where you ended up. Did you think at the beginning where you started and where you ended? Did you think that was going to happen? Was it?
No idea. No clue. And I never came on this job like thinking I want to be a supervisor. I've been blessed, and I happened to be at the right time at the right place.
What about detective? Did you have your eye on detective, or were you like just kind of?
I was so young when they gave the test. Like, I took the sergeant's test when I had like 4 years on. And I remember Trish O'Connor and I were like 287, 288 on the list. And I was able to make, I made sergeant before I was able to make detective. And probably my biggest regret is not having the opportunity to be a detective. And, but I mean, I came into the D very young. I think I had like 8 years on. And it was a phenomenal experience. Like, patrol, we all know, is the backbone of the department, but the detective division, I call the D in case people don't understand what I'm saying. If I say D, you know, the detective division, or Dick is...
Get your minds out of the gutters, y'all.
Right. Well, we call detectives dicks. So,
which isn't because we're dickheads, although that can be true. But that
there's
traces
dickheads in every occupation.
That's
so
correct.
we're not.
No, the term dicks in Chicago allegedly goes back to the cartoon Dick Tracy.
Oh yeah,
that's what I heard that came from. Yeah, from Barry Moran and those old timers. That's what I've heard. I've never known that not to be a term in Chicago to refer to detectives.
That makes sense.
The dicks are here, you know, whatever. But
yeah, it was the best years of my 30 years were in the 11th district and then in Area 4. Just phenomenal police officers, phenomenal detectives, phenomenal supervisors, and I was so blessed to be a part of that. And it was an amazing experience, and I'm very, very grateful for it. Like, when you come into a unit, you know, whether it's like I was the CO of asset forfeiture, it's like I never did asset forfeiture, but we're not building a space shuttle here. You got to learn the job. You got to figure it out, you know. And I remember when I first got there and I took over sex and DNA, it's like you have to like really build those blocks to get to understand the entire process. It's not difficult, but you're kind of like behind the 8 ball, but it's not difficult to figure out, but you have to have the work ethic to like, I want to learn this and hammer it, like do well and succeed at it.
Were you
all about the victims.
Were you a supervisor in sex crimes or?
Yeah. Sex and DNA. And I'll tell you something, you know, like I kind of like, for lack of a better term, bust balls with the homicide detectives. When I was the sex and DNA sergeant, we, you know, everyone's always messing with each other, playing jokes on each other and stuff to kind of like, you know, lessen what the type of thing is that we do. And I think that being a sex sergeant and you do sex crimes, which are hundreds of cases a year and hundreds of DNA associations and hits that you deal with every year on a daily basis. I mean, you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of cases. And like a homicide sergeant at the time, in my experience, back in Area 4 in the early 2000s, like a detective might have like 7 or 8 murders for the year. A homicide detective would. So I would like, you know, I know I did that job, and I'm telling you, being a sex detective and sex sergeant and DNA sergeant, very difficult job to manage because of the caseload.
It's unbelievable.
It is.
It really. I mean, I'm getting kind of magnified, the volume magnified by the nature of the fucking crime.
Yeah, and it's like not just DNA for sexual assaults or other sex-related crimes. You got homicide, you got robberies, burglaries, thefts. You've got DNA, you know, profiles coming in and DNA associations from all types of it in like a fifth of the city. And it can be very overwhelming and hard to manage. You really had to stay on top of it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's just my opinion.
No, you're right. I think, you know, I just got word from some of my buddies, I don't want to cause anybody any problems, but the importance of that, what you're talking about, learning the process of it and managing it properly is critically important always, and you don't know how critical it is until it doesn't happen, right? Because I just recently was told they had a great, let's see, I can say this without program with older murders to have DNA worked up through a federal grant, and somebody dropped the ball, and the federal grant was not re-upped the way it should have been.
Was Chicago?
Yes. And I'm not trying to throw anybody off, give anybody a problem,
Who
but
dropped the ball?
that is, I don't know who it is. And
I'll tell you,
wouldn't say-
Larry Sachs, when I was chief, phenomenal grant writer, and he was the director of that, and he was an amazing man, and man, did he, the funding, the approvals that he was able to obtain, phenomenal. That's something you really got to. That's not a fun job.
No, but you
But
have
it's
to
an
stay on
important
top of
job.
it. I remember
thankless job there.
Yeah.
Huh?
my partner, who you know well, is an old partner, and I don't have his permission to use his name, but he
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, he wrote the grants or would help write the grants for us when we were in cold case. Those are critically important because the city of Chicago doesn't have the money often, or is not going to approve like travel a lot of times to go interview witnesses across the country. Cold case happens, right? Like people spread to the four winds, and or the expense of sending DNA out to these private labs who are faster, who have
1,000%.
higher, better technology to get things done, but so also it's a city of Chicago, so. My old partner who wrote these grants, he was also like for lack of a better word, like the guard dog for the grant, because it is the city of Chicago, and people inside the department or people inside the city would be trying to use that money for things that it wasn't designed for. Federal government has very strict rules about that.
That it wasn't approved for. Yep.
Yeah, and he would step in and say, "You cannot do that." He didn't give a shit if you were king of France. He would be,
and I would respect him for coming forward and
he would
saying,
be like,
"Hey,
you
that's our
cannot
funds
do
for
that,
this."
right?
Yeah,
This
I
is
agree.
against federal law, and amazing that you have to even go through that. But the point is, I'm not trying to do anything other than illustrate your point or back your point up that it's critically important, especially as a supervisor, right? That you get a handle on that, you're organized, and you know what's going on, you know what's important, right?
Like when I get a case with DNA, when I would get it, whether it was a homicide, a sex crime, whatever the case would be, a property crime, I would read the case, because when I would take the DNA association from the lab to the detective, I want to know what's required of that detective to do. Like, I wanted to know the case so I could hold, the detective accountable for it. I mean, you really got to, and then, it's kind of like you've got all these cases, and it's like, hey, Mike, hey, Chris, what's going on with this? Did you look at this? And it's like a constant, like it's kind of like whack-a-mole, but you just got to stay on top of it.
Right. And the other underlying thing behind this should always be, not that I'm holier than thou or anything.
You are.
Yeah. A lot of people would disagree.
Looks like Richard Gere.
Yeah.
Totally.
In my head. But now who wants to look like Richard Gere? You know what I mean? It's not like, yeah, all right. Well, anyway, nobody's buying that. But I appreciate that you continue to support me in that pursuit to have people think I look like Richard Gere. Anyway, so the underlying factor with all this is you have victims and victims' families who are counting on us, not just to work the cases and try and solve them, but to have our organizational structure shit together, right? Because we can't go to them and say, we forgot to re-up the grant, and so now, I mean, what kind of bullshit
There are
is that?
so many pieces to the whole process from patrol to investigations to grant funding. I mean, as I moved up the ranks, you kind of see the different aspects of everything, and it's very interesting, and it's like, it's really difficult to like try to manage and reach out to different bureaus and try to get, like, everyone's trying to vie for funding and resources and get what we need. And, resources are tough in the public sector. I mean, it just is what it is. Our most expensive resource is manpower. Something that I'm a huge fan of. And if I was ever going to do anything again in my life other than enjoy retirement, I am fascinated by forensic genealogy. And, I pulled, 15, 20 of my friends, and all but one were civilians. They weren't retired or current law enforcement. And I asked them if they'd be willing to have law enforcement or forensic genealogist have access to their DNA profile, like this whole forensic genealogy. And before I retired, we submitted a case to Parabon, which is one of the big DNA companies. And we submitted a case. There were 2 young girls from the 70s. They lived very close by each other. I would say 3 or 4 blocks. They were grade school girls, and they were both assaulted and murdered. And the DNA from...
I worked on that case from like 77.
I had no idea that you worked on that case.
Yeah, I picked it up when I was in cold case to look at.
Yeah. I had no idea. I didn't even bring this up knowing that I had no idea you worked on the case. So we submitted that to Parabon for them to work on it. And I don't know what the outcome was of it, but the DNA profile is to the same male in both of those cases. And to me, like it can take, based on the things I've read about forensic genealogy, like some of these genealogists, they may solve a case in, say, hours. Yeah. In some cases are still unsolved that they've worked on for 7 years. And like currently to date, they have about 2 million DNA profiles to work with to try to piece together, these forensic genealogists, to piece together the family tree and try to identify who the offender is in your case and thousands of others. And it's very interesting that there's like 200 public DNA profiles that they could access. But you got the big players like Ancestry, DNA, what's the other one? 23andMe. Mm-hmm. I think they just recently filed for bankruptcy. I think there's another one called Heritage or something. Don't quote me on that. But those big players have like 25 to 30 million profiles. And I just have seen some just incredible old cases and current cases cleared through forensic. I think it's the future. It's forensic, genealogy. But I asked this group of people, friends of mine, would you give up? Would you give, because they don't give you those big players I just mentioned, they don't allow law enforcement or forensic genealogists access to that for law enforcement purposes. And I asked some friends of mine, what would you like be okay with your DNA? I would, probably based on my career and just based on like the case of these 2, this horrific crime against these 2, grade school girls. I had no idea that you worked on it, but most of them, all but one, said I would not give my DNA voluntarily. Yeah, I would not allow them access, and I thought that was very interesting. And these are very great people that I love and respect. And
but I think that the issue is I think that would be the number if you ask 1,000 people, right? Because I think
I agree.
The trust is just not there with our government at most levels, right?
I can't believe that I came in here to talk about that case that we submitted for forensic genealogy. I don't know the outcome of it, but it's crazy to me to think that you worked on that case.
Yeah, somebody handed me that case to look at because, it's a tough case. I don't want to go into a lot of detail because they got legs on that, and I don't want to scare off anybody. But it was.
I'm aware of. Go ahead.
The basic circumstances, right? And the unique thing about that case was DNA is not always probative, right? Like if you're dating a girl and you guys break up and 3 months later she's killed in her apartment, your DNA might be there, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's probative. It's usable in the case, right? Like a fingerprint or anything else. And these 2 particular cases, and one of them was high school age girl. The other was a little bit older, and there's no connection to them that's known of. But the DNA, based on the nature of it, absolutely had to be the killer. There's no question that it is the killer's DNA. And about 6 months apart, about a mile apart, and just never was able to get solved. And but I think they have some legs with that now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I would love to hear the outcome of that when
Me
it
too.
is when it comes to a close.
Me too, because they have family that are still would love to know. Even though that's 50 years old, that case. So
it's very interesting. I just think it's the future, but I understand why people don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's a tough one. It does make it tougher for us. I think you almost have to go to individuals and say, look, this is only going to be used for this direct comparison, and explain to them what's going on. But even at that, I think sometimes people are like, my family member, he's dead, but I'm associated with it, and then my family and all that, So I don't. I hear you, and I'm with you,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a tough sled, I think, to get people to
I
buy
agree.
into that.
I mean, if it was my family, I'd be like, good riddance. You're a killer.
Oh yeah, right.
And you deserve to go to prison.
This is a question.
Or it would be like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is a question I've never asked.
He was always a monster,
I'm
right?
surprised. Maybe it should be a staple question.
Oh shit.
Given that you're
Here we
both
go.
such seasoned detectives, seasoned policemen, do you think, given the time that you started to now, right, 2026, April 1st, 2026,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
is it easier or harder to get away with a crime now than it was, say, 20 years ago?
I think it's harder.
Much harder, yeah.
With technology,
Yeah, because if for no other reason,
just for phones alone, cars,
Right.
phones.
ring cameras.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are cases. Well, I mean, the one we were talking about before we started camera, but there are murders now where they'll catch a guy coming out of his house, going to the scene, doing the murdering, and running red lights,
way there.
going back. I mean,
Yeah.
That's what's called a deterrence, folks. A deterrence.
it is.
I knew
hard.
the answer to that question before I asked it.
Chasing video pre and post incident. I mean,
Yeah, it's amazing.
the case we were talking about before we got on here, that was huge. The Dicks did a phenomenal job. I mean, polar vortex chasing pre and post cameras, and
Just working backwards.
Yeah, right. And
work
then-
forwards or work backwards.
Right.
Right, and in that particular case, was so fascinating about that.
It's a very famous case.
It is. I mean, we can mention the case.
I don't care.
But the detectives were able to find video evidence, basically from the scene of where the crime allegedly happened, all the way to a place like 5 miles away, stringed together through ring cameras, through
Public cameras. Yeah.
and
Ride
but
shares, taxis,
it stopped.
cell phones,
Right.
Crazy.
all of it.
Right. It stopped like right at like what was it, Addison and Damon or whatever. let's
Yeah,
call it.
like Hermitage, Marshfield, something like that,
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
And then they lost sight of him, right? Well, when they were able later to get the name of a guy that might be a suspect, they knew they were looking for two suspects. He had a brother that was whatever, but he only lived like 2 blocks from where they lost sight of him on the cameras, right? Is like, that's super strong circumstantial evidence then, but it's backed by actual physical evidence and that you got him. But in fact, well, the last murder I got assigned before I retired was, and we talked about this a little bit with Michelle, but it was outside of a car wash on the west side. And they had really good cameras on there. And the guy was a very distinctive looking guy. The cameras were so good. You see him pull up. He's in the passenger seat. He reaches in the glove box, pulls a gun out of the glove box, puts it in his waistband, gets out of the car. You see all this on video because it's up like this. Walks around the corner, past this long car wash. The guy's in the alley slinging dope, shoots the guy and runs down the alley. Right? Well, the case fell apart criminally because witnesses, it was like we had 4 witnesses. 2 of them died by the time we went to trial. One of them was too sick to testify and whatever. So they decided to dismiss the case. Just didn't have a strong enough case. They called me and it's like, we don't have anything. I'm like, you got freaking videotape. That's him. You can see it. But I'm not going to fight with the state about that. It's like, I get it, whatever. Well, sure enough, the guy sues for wrongful arrest. I never did it, whatever. His attorney, to his credit, and I won't say this about many of these predatory law firms that sue the city of Chicago, but to his credit, his attorney had not seen the video. And so he goes through it with him. Yeah, Hammond did put this case, whatever, this, right? I guess as soon as his attorney got discovery, he was like, this is you. He dropped the case. He's like, no. You go find some other attorney. And then it went away. That the judge was even like, yeah, no, come on now, which doesn't happen very often in civil courts in this city. But that evidence is strong. So to your point, it's harder and harder to get.
I remember back in the day, like Target was like the holy grail of video. It was so clear, and now it's like everybody has super clear video. It's.
Well, how many times we were younger detectives? You go into a grocery store, a little store on the west side, and say, "There's a camera right there." It doesn't work. It's a fake camera, or whatever. But
we actually had a on St. Patrick's Day, two people ripped the Mr. Rogers picture off our wall. Mr. Rogers with he was a fireman or a policeman, with their feet in the little pool, right?
Yeah.
Very.
I remember that picture.
A white man and a black man with their feet in the same little foot pool at the same time in the 60s. It was a huge deal. It was a gift, and they ripped it off the wall and they took it. And we looked at the cameras, traced it back, we looked at the cameras, and now we're going to put in that exact spot a picture of the two people ripping it off the wall as they're doing it.
Yeah, that's good.
Shame them.
It's crazy to think that, you commit a crime on, Addison and Damon, and they can track you all the way back. That's nuts. Yeah. So the moral to the story is don't commit a crime.
Be a better criminal.
Be a better criminal. Yes, wear a hoodie.
Hey, whoa. Don't be giving ideas out.
Everybody does that.
Leave your phone at home.
Yeah. No, that's good. Wear a mask. There's more places for DNA to end up. I like it.
Which from getting on the job, coming out of the academy, where'd you go first? 11?
Well, can we back up?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
sorry. Can we back up a second? Because you and I have a little bit similar backgrounds. We both grew up in Indiana.
Hoosiers.
We're both Hoosiers.
Hey,
correct.
Watch your tone over there, Chris.
I like the way
Real Billy's at heart. Watch it.
Right.
Yeah, we're both. I mean, I'm from a small town. I think you're from a small town and down south.
So how does the journey work for you? Because we've talked about mine on this show quite a bit, but how do you decide? I want to be go to Chicago. I want to be a policeman in Chicago. Did it work like that? Was it kind of an epiphany, or was it kind of?
It was an epiphany. Like when I tell my friends, hey, when they found out that I was the police, my friends from high school, they're like, "Really, Staples?" Because I was probably the rowdiest of the bunch.
Yeah.
And
you don't ever try to lock me up. I'll tell stories on you. That was the right. I heard some of that too. But
yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, it was. I was at in my old job and I actually was involved in a hit and run accident. And I never in my life thought I would be the police, and neither did my friends. So I was involved in a hit and run accident. Harlem and 290, you know how when you come down the expressway ramps and there's a light, green, red, for when you should go, you stop halfway down.
How'd you get away?
Oh, that's funny, Chris. Okay.
They didn't have cameras. There were no dash cameras back then. It was easy to get away.
It was in my 1985 Honda Prelude. And so I went down the viaduct to come eastbound into the city, and I stopped at the stoplight because I'm a rule follower, as you guys know.
Oh, of course.
And I get rear-ended from behind. And so I get out, and I remember it was a sunny day, and I tried to get the information from the girl, and she didn't want to give it up. And so, just to show that we're old, there were no cell phones back then. This was like 1989. So I grabbed the paper, and I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to memorize the plate, and I go up and I use the payphone at the top of the viaduct at Harlem and 290. And
payphones used to be those things you'd go up and put money in them, and then you'd dial, and
it was like a dime, right? Remember we used to say you got a dime, call somebody who cares, right?
Get a dime amount,
right? So I called 911, and this old school state trooper shows up, and I'm like, "This is the plate," and I go, "And this is what kind of car it is that took off," and he was like, okay. And he runs the plate, and he's like, that's not what kind of car it is. And I'm like, my dad and brother are gearheads, and I'm telling you right now, that's what kind of car it was. And, he puts out a flash, and they end up getting the car, and I was right. So this old school state trooper is like, girl, you should be the police. And I'm like, really? I'm like, why would you say that to me, And,
you son of a...
yeah. And then the next week, and, everything happens for a reason in life, even the crappy stuff, whether we want to admit it or not. And it all works out. I mean, it really does, in my opinion. We don't like it when bad things happen, but the next week I saw it in the newspaper. That's another thing. Didn't see it online because the internet wasn't around then. And there was 32,000 people signed up to take the test, and 25,000 actually showed up to take the test. And I was the second class in, and I was like...
Yeah, so was that 91?
Yeah, I got on in December 91. I was a second class in, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I took
and I was like...
Very different from my experience. No police, nobody told me I should be the police. And the majority of police that I knew told me I shouldn't be the police.
Well, a stranger...
Close friends of ours told me I did very good on the test. They're like, don't be the police. You shouldn't be the police.
I think that you'd be a great police officer. You have a great demeanor.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of it is about how you speak with people and how you treat people.
Yeah,
no question.
They're like, don't be the police.
Totally. This guy knows how to talk to people.
100%.
Swideric, fantastic.
Yeah,
knows how to talk to people. We all know who you want to put in a room, and I don't mean like put in a room, but to speak with, to interview, to conduct interviews. So Mike knows how to get in people's heads.
Yeah.
He got me to come here.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I don't like being on TV. I don't like speaking with the media, but he got me here.
Me too.
Right?
Right.
Jesus. But yeah, so that's
So you just decide, all right, well, I'm gonna take the test, and then you get hired, and you're like, holy shit.
And then like when I was like, I worked like 10, 12-hour days, and it was hard, my old job. I used to manage a restaurant. I know that sounds funny, but like, what did we all do? Did we train Superman before we got on the job? No. Everyone had their own, like, kind of like where they started out in high school and college and kind of went with that. And so
after managing a restaurant, being a policeman was kind of like a permanent.
Oh my God, I was
permanent
like,
vacation.
I was like, man, this is. Yeah. I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this, and like the things you see.
I empathize with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you say?
He owns a bar restaurant.
Oh yeah. Yeah, restaurant is hard work.
Yeah,
very hard.
I'm of the opinion everybody should have to work in the service industry for a while.
Yeah, it is tough.
Too.
And don't be cheap. Leave good tips.
Yeah, right. How about it?
Tips to ensure personal service.
Actually, see, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I want to tell you not to commit crimes, but if people don't commit crimes, they don't have jobs. So
we've got
make them challenging crimes, so they have to work harder.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I mean, I've just been very blessed. Right place, right time, and the right people took notice. And I never even thought I took the sergeant's test.
Where was your first assignment? Like what?
I was
district?
In 19 and 20, and I worked down in one. I was a bike cop for a while
on like the lakefront, like out of 19,
like downtown in the Loop.
And where's 19? Out of Addison? Is that Addison and Halstead?
Yeah, a lot of protests. Yeah, whole different environment, kind of like downtown in the 1st and 18th district. Whole different ball games.
So what year did you get on the job?
91.
91.
And then when I was promoted to sergeant, they sent me to 11. And huge difference going from, but
the 11th district is on the west side of Chicago, which is traditionally one of the most violent, if not the most
11
violent
and 7 toughest districts in the city,
in the country for that matter.
And the first week was a culture shock for me, like the amount, and I think it was 1999, the 11th district was the murder capital of the country. I mean, I remember driving to work one morning, and
were you a patrolman in 11 at that time?
You were, weren't you? Oh no, you were.
Yeah.
Well, depends on the year. I was a patrolman there in 94 to 96 when I went to SOS,
and I went to 11 in 1999.
Yeah, and then so I was in. I think when I first met you, I was a detective, but you had all these guys. Some of them I spoke to in the last couple of days working for you.
What?
Yeah.
Dan O'Shea?
Yeah.
Love that guy. I really do adore him. He is one of my top 5 favorite people on this job.
They it wasn't just him, but they were all raving about you as a sergeant on the TAC team. You had a TAC team with those guys.
Yeah,
right?
I had the 1169 team and 63 team. And I'm telling you, people wanted to be on our team. And it was because of not me, but because of those guys. We laughed so hard every day, and we worked even harder. Like, these are guys, like, you want to push them to go out the door because they just loved being at work.
Yeah.
And, like, it was just, we worked hard, and we laughed hard, and,
Yeah. That was the whole West Side, really. I mean, that was my kind of experience on the West Side. Right? I worked there as a patrolman at the academy, and then I went to SOS, and then went to narcotics, and then I made detective, and I came back to Area 4, which is the West Side, and every place I worked there, out of that station, Harrison, Kedzie, I'm not telling you every single policeman, but most of us loved being there, loved doing the work. You hated taking days off or furloughs because you're afraid you're going to miss something good,
Yeah, I missed something exciting.
But
a lot of good pranks on each other.
Oh, man, if you could, I've said this a lot, if you couldn't, especially in Area 4, but it's true downstairs too in 11. I mean, if you had thin skin or couldn't take a ball, well, you saw it your whole life. I mean, Chris has known me since I got on the job, and if you had thin skin or couldn't take a ball busting, boy, it's a long day.
Right? And it didn't matter if you were a man or a woman, what team you batted for, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it didn't matter. It was like
well, the good thing was
I got to have thick skin. It doesn't matter what color it is.
Kind of the cool thing for me was I got to experience a lot of it. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like these guys would come in after work on my bar shifts, and I'd be bartending, and it was like, it was fantastic. One, I got to hear these stories and get an insight into a larger picture of what was happening in the city that I love, and at the same time, work my ass off and get my balls busted hard by the guys that were on the other side of the bar. Right? Those guys didn't pull any punches. But But it also, I think, as a citizen, right? We don't always know. Living in Rogers Park at the time, you have a picture of the city, but hearing what was happening in 11 really pulled the veil from my eyes, because it was like everybody else is like, oh, this city's awesome. It's like, well, it's awesome if you don't live over there. If you live over there, you can't leave your house at 9 o'clock at night.
You're trying to go to work. You're trying to get your kids to school. You're trying to, every day's a life challenge, right?
I find it particularly interesting when you hear conversations now, especially the politically charged conversation about defund the police. It's like, well, it's easy for you to say because you can leave your house and drive down the street. Yeah, you're not worried about your children being the victim of a violent crime just walking to school.
I remember working a side hustle when I was a sergeant. Probably shouldn't say the store, but I was working a side hustle, and there was this kid by me.
I think I know this store.
And I said, ON, Old Navy.
Oh, yeah. So, that's it. Right. I used to come and see it down there.
I get bored, and I'd hang out, and there was this young black kid. He had a full ride to DePaul, and I'd chit-chat with him, and I'd fold clothes with him, and just, because you kind of get bored. You watch the door, and you're doing security, and, I was like 32 at the time, and I hear him one day say, like, where he grew up, and I'm like, did you just say the Shaw, like Crenshaw? And I go, did you grow up at like Pulaski and Crenshaw? He goes, yeah. And I go, and you have a full ride to DePaul, and we know that was a very violent district, and it still is in some ways. And he's like, yeah. And I said, you have friends that are dead or in jail? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, can you tell me your story? Like, how did you get out and have a full ride to DePaul, and you have friends that are dead or in jail? And he said his grandmother, he goes, I always got straight A's, but my grandmother put me in summer school every summer to keep me off the corner. Yeah. And it's just like, I'll never forget that story, because, we need...
Yeah, it's such an unbelievable challenge. There are so many good people in those neighborhoods. That's one of the things that you figure out working in districts like this. They can get painted with this brush of, oh, that's such a,
there's a lot of great people there.
It's all ghetto or whatever. But truth is, it's mostly good people, but there's just a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of players, an inordinate number of players that aren't great people, and they make up the narrative for neighborhood, unfortunately. And that's why you don't see people in those neighborhoods screaming defund the police, or you do see them saying, and this is the hardest thing for my friends in my neighborhood to get their head wrapped around, like, they've been asking for and I'm not saying I agree this is a proper deployment or it will work, but since I came out of the academy on the west side of Chicago, people have been asking for the National Guard, because, they think that, it will end it'll help, it'll make the streets safer. Maybe it would. The reality of the matter is, it's not a long-term solution. But my point is, what people from the outside assume to be true or think is true is often not true about some of these really challenged neighborhoods. I mean,
and a lot of those the background is the cases that you discuss and their families.
Yeah, because, I've been fortunate on this podcast. I've had a lot of families be willing to engage with us, and that's a tremendous gift that I appreciate a great deal, and I always try and respect. And, get this perspective of, especially if you're, I don't go down that road too much, but I think it is about, having an ear open and trying to do the right thing, and trying to. Also, though, you always got to marry this with, if there's a bad guy, the bad guy has to be stopped, right? It has to be stopped, and that's what it amounts to. I remember a specific story with you where there was a brutal sexual assault or rapist, whatever, working Logan Square and Wicker Park,
North Damon, Milwaukee. Started in Lincoln Park, early 2000s,
and you basically coming to us and saying, hey, this guy, we got to get this guy off the street. And I know you were out there every night, and he was basically following girls home from the bars, right?
Right. He was, it was an FBI profile done, not accountable on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays. And he would follow women home. He started in Lincoln Park, but when patrol flooded Lincoln Park, he moved down to North Dam and Milwaukee and Bucktown, Logan Square, or whatever we're going to call it, and started attacking women there. And it was I was obsessed with the case. I'm not afraid to admit it, but I mean, I would even drive around off duty looking for this guy. If people said, Staples, do you want to get promoted or to catch this guy? I'm like, I want to catch this guy. And it went on for like 2.5 years. If I recall correctly, I mean, it's been over 20 years, but I think he was good for 12 sexual assaults. And he was a blitzer. He'd come up and, punch you and drag you. And I remember being out there with Jenny Christopherakis and Paul McDonough and Pat Deanahan, and we drive around in coverts. And it was a very interesting case, and a very interesting case at how it came to a close, too. It was probably my most favorite case I've ever been involved in over the years.
I'd like to take a moment from the program to have a real talk about safety and security. Toward that end, I would like to introduce you to my friends over at Blue Knight Security Solutions, your ultimate partner in protection. Blue Knight Security Solutions isn't just your average check your ID at the door security company. They're a team of elite detectives, investigators, and law enforcement professionals with unparalleled expertise. Whether you need their real-world investigative prowess or securing your home, business, synagogue, church, or event, Blue Knight has you covered. From risk assessment to tailored security plans, they'll ensure your safety. Blue Knight Security Solutions provides street-smart operators who can handle any situation. Contact Blue Knight Security Solutions today at 773-706-4920 or visit BlueKnightSecuritySolutions.com.
All right, so let's get back to it. First, let's wrap up the that sexual assault. So how did that end?
So basically, this guy was he was probably good for 12 sexual assaults on women coming out of the bars at night. And so I actually drew on a map because we didn't have Google Maps back then. Printed out a map and this
MapQuest is what we...
Yeah, and then I put the dots and I'm like, here's this guy's pattern. This is where he goes. And it made sense to me. And so I would drive around in a pattern, and it was a blue car. We called it the blue car rapist. Pontiac Grand Am. I think it was an 83 or 84. I forgot the year. Maybe it was 80, 89. I don't know. And so I would drive around looking for lone males. The offender was Hispanic, and I would drive around and look for lone males and blue Pontiac Grand Am 4-door or something similar in body style. And the only reason I really felt it was a Pontiac Grand Am is because one of the victims screamed for help, and a guy at 2 a.m. at Milwaukee, right by the Walgreens there, he came out of his house and he chased the car. And he goes, that is the kind of car it is because I used to have that car. So I knew it was good information. So I would drive around at night with those guys, and we'd be in covert cars. And one night we all spread out in the area and kind of sit back and watch. And it was about 10:30, 11 at night, and I see this blue Pontiac, and but I don't think it was a Grand Am. It's a male Hispanic. It looks like a male Hispanic. So I call into the area. I'm like, hey, put this information, print the info on the plate and put it in my mailbox, and I'll check it out tomorrow. This is 10:30, 11:30 at night, and no big deal. So I'm just driving around, and I sit back and I would watch lone women walking by themselves coming out of bars, and I would just sit back in the covert car and watch them because that was his target. Well, 2 or 3 in the morning, I see this same guy with the same plate number, and there's more to the story, and I see, and because I'm standing back watching this girl, you could tell she was intoxicated and messing with her phone, walking southbound on Damon, and I see this guy in this car that I saw a few hours earlier, and he turns his lights off, and he pulls over, and as she walks down the street, he's back here and with his lights off, just you could tell he was watching her, and my heart starts pounding. I'm like,
Melissa's
Pat,
checking her gun.
yeah. And I'm like,
it's on.
So I'm like, hey, here's the deal. And I call it out to Pat and to Paul McDonough, used to call my play partner. Those guys are fantastic. And so they're watching, they're getting out of the car, they're watching, and then it ended up going, they ended up losing the car. Girl got home safe. And it happens, right? It happens. But it turns out he lives a block away from where the car was registered to. A few blocks from where I've lived for the last 26 years. And so we ended up putting a tracker on his car. And I know what I saw. I know what this guy was doing. It was obvious.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that happened to see it. It just happened to be in the right place at the right time to see this happening. So we ended up in a tracker on his car, brought him in a couple days later, used a ruse, he gave us his DNA voluntarily. And, Rich Coyle, our commander at the time, what a great guy.
Good man. Yeah.
Hell
of a good man.
What a great leader that man is. So I'm like, Commander, this is what I saw this guy doing. This is the blue car rapist. I'm like super jacked. And so we do a rush on the DNA and it comes back. Commander Coyle calls me at the time a couple days later, says, Melissa, it's not the blue car rapist. And I was like distraught. I'm like, what are you telling me? It's not the blue car rapist. It turns out this guy was a rapist, but it wasn't the blue car rapist. And he had sexually assaulted a girl up in by Wrigleyville, up on Addison and Southport. And so he pled out, took like 18 years. And I know I kind of like diverted on this story. And then
that's a freaking sad statement about Sioux, Chicago, right? You go out looking for a rapist. It's not your rapist, but it is a rapist.
But a rapist, yeah.
Yeah, and this guy was a food runner in a very popular restaurant on the river downtown. And he was, people think like a rapist is someone that's like very unattractive. This guy was a very attractive guy. I give him like an 8.5 or 9. That's a lot coming from me. Very attractive guy, married, children. It's like
I think I remember that.
How people profile what a sexual, what a rapist looks like is not always like what some people like stereotype typically would believe what they are. So later on, so that's done. Like 2.5 years go by, nothing, no hits. For 2.5 months, not one. This guy did not strike once. So I'm like, finally, I take a weekend off. I take a night off because I'm like, he's either dead. He went back to Mexico.
2.5 months or 2.5 years?
2.5 months. Okay. I Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for Saturday night, I was out there in a covert car and nothing. So I'm like, this guy's either dead, he's in jail, or maybe he's in the military. We knew he was Hispanic because one of the female Hispanics, a female Hispanic victim says he speaks proper Spanish. So I'm like, what does that mean? And that he was born in Mexico and then later came here to the States. So we ended up, I lost my train of thought.
He didn't do anything for 2.5 months?
Yeah, 2.5 months. Yeah, so 2.5 months, he doesn't strike. So I even reached out to the military, do you guys carry, and they do swab soldiers when they join the military, but it's not into a database like HOTUS where you can fish it into. Yeah. So that was a dead end. Had boxes of like Pontiac Grand Ams from the state. It was like a whole shoebox. He ended up being in like the top 10 of the Pontiac Grand Ams. But what happened is when I got promoted to lieutenant and I came back as the homicide lieutenant in Area 4, and then Peterson got promoted, the Screaming Skull, to chief or deputy superintendent, as they called it at the time. I was his admin lieutenant, so I'm outside of headquarters. And Kathy Warner, who was in charge of the DNA downtown, she comes up to me outside and she shows me this DNA hit. And she goes, do you know what this is? There's no known offender on it. She goes, do you know what this is? And I knew the victim's name. And it was like a couple years had passed. And I'm like, Kathy, give me that. And I go to Peterson. I'm like, I know this pattern, like inside and out. Can I pull together a team, let me manage this, and we will get this guy. And what the DNA Association and the ETs did a phenomenal job on this. There was a shooting. It was like an 8th or 9th district. I remember it was a red Ford Explorer was involved in a shooting. The evidence technicians...
8 and 9 districts are south side.
Yeah, out south, yeah. It was involved in a shooting and then abandoned. The ETs did a phenomenal job processing the vehicle. There was a bottle of water that had been opened in the center console. The rim of that opened water bottle matched the blue car rapist.
Come on.
Yeah. And I was jacked. So I'm like, let me pull together a team. Cheryl Barakima from Area 3 and her partner, forgot his name. Great.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Hispanic guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Used to live by
Yeah,
there.
great guy. And they were fantastic. So we pulled, and we had forms, and here's this guy's picture. He's 13. Anyone associated with that car, whether it was a boyfriend, cousin, anybody that was associated with that car. We probably had like 10 or 15 profiles, and I printed out all the stuff. Here's their arrest history. Okay, this.
When you say he was 13,
like this kid, like we'd have like anyone associated with the car, like maybe a juvie getting pulled over or getting a contact card done.
Okay.
Like anybody associated with that car. So we had we're like, this kid's 13, so it's not him.
Oh, I got you.
This guy's like 350 pounds. It's not him. So we would when we narrowed it down to about 10 people, and we all kind of like took a guess at who we thought it would be. I did not win that bet, but it was Cheryl Bronchema that picked the right guy. It's kind of like you.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the detectives, he had 2 different places where he had just 2 different addresses, and they could tell by the utilities where he was, but there was like a recent move. So the Dicks went out and hit it like 6 a.m. and hit both houses with search warrants. And they get to the one house, and we say, we're looking for, we're looking for so-and-so. And the woman answers the door, and she's like, he was my husband, and he was shot and killed like 2 weeks ago in Elgin trying to rob a dope dealer.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was like, part of me I was frustrated, but I was also relieved that we would not have to put those victims through all that. So
how many girls ended up picking them out then in photo spreads?
You know what? There was one girl that was assaulted during daylight hours, and she was sober. And she said that I will know him when I see him. She said he was a good-looking guy, and but she didn't pick him out. And I thought for sure. I mean, when you're involved in that kind of horrific trauma, you just, it's hard.
Yeah.
Whether you're sober or whatever. Yeah. So Cheryl and her partner, they go out to Elgin. They ended up getting the blood card and comparing it to the blue car rapist, and it was him.
Yeah.
So
crazy. How many rapes total?
It was around a dozen. Yeah, it was something, but it was just a very interesting case, horrific. But I'm just glad to see that it's
Well,
a couple more bad guys
reached
off
out and snatched his ass. Right?
Yeah. So
that's
kind of
crazy.
A long story, but
it's
a
great.
very interesting case.
And what's interesting to me about that too, we had Michelle Wood on last time, and she started out as a sex crimes dick, and she just wrote a autobiography. It's just, we talk a lot about the weight of cases and how they wear on you. One of the cases that she talked about in her book that weighs on her most was the sexual assault. And what stuck with her was how tough the victim was, the woman, and how determined she was and cooperative, and how hard it is. I mean, sexual assaults are, I mean, I got to be honest, I work.
It's not like somebody walks up and shoots you in the head.
Yeah.
Like, this is a process, and it is horrific for women.
It's like
and or men. It can happen to men too.
Right. I mean, it's almost like being murdered, except you don't die. You got to live with the rest of your life, right? I mean, it is. I only worked about call them 4 sexual assaults over the years. You know how that works. Like you're just the only person in the office, right? And because we had great sex crimes, it's an art. You know what I mean? It really is.
Carl Loeffler, amazing. Dave Kupchak.
Yeah.
And they were good.
And I would
Jenny,
often go,
great.
Jenny. I mean, I would often go to the sex crimes dicks with different questions and different angles when I'd have, a murder where there was some type of sexual element to it. Just really great stuff. But man, the ones I worked on, I just hated so much because, first of all, contrary to what, nothing simple ever, right? And so one of the things I found, like the first couple that I handled, I went to the hospital and I interviewed the victim, and you're probably going to laugh because you're going to be like, for a sex crimes detective, you get beyond this pretty quickly. But for me, not doing that many, being a murder guy mostly, I go interview the victim and I'm furious. Like, I want to find this one guy and I want to put him under a fucking house somewhere. Like
100%,
this. And then you go you find a guy and interview him, and I was like, well, wait, was she lying? You know what I mean? What that doesn't, because he also seems to be making a lot of sense. And it's like, well, I hate this. There's no clear, bad guy or good guy in this, Pretty quickly, I mean, that's why I say the sex dicks would laugh about this, because, you get past that pretty quickly. You start getting that radar of, of
and you know what's real and what's not. And some girls, some victims, male or female, they may have ulterior motives, and it's unfortunate, but we still have to see that case to the end, whether it's bona fide or not.
No, absolutely. And
stayed all night, had an affair, whatever it is, but you have to still get to the truth in the end.
Yeah, you cannot get your head wrapped around like, I don't believe her, I don't think, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Everyone, you have to say it's legit until you find out differently. But it's, but sexual assault victims, it's like, a little piece of them has been taken away, or a big piece of them has been taken away that's never coming back. And that's sad. The one I handled, it was one of the toughest cases I ever handled, because a girl was from South Korea, and she really didn't want to cooperate, and it was one of those drug, what do you call
Like
it?
a human trafficking thing?
No,
Trafficking
like she got drugged.
Oh,
in a
drug induced,
bar,
okay,
you
yeah.
know, kind of what's that drug that
GHB?
Yeah, right.
Date rape drug?
And
Yeah, roofies, yeah.
and she, you know, she's trying to do the right thing, meets a nice guy, whatever, and then she doesn't remember, but she knows that she's assaulted. I think it was a holiday. I was the only person working. I go to the hospital, and nurse was great. The poor girl was just so just sad is the only way to. But she was like, detective, I can't pursue this. I can't. I said, well, I mean, you kind of need to pursue. You don't have to do anything, but why would you not want to? These guys, because there was multiple guys, and she said, well, my parents
might not have been the first, and you might not be the last. So
right, and that was the conversation you always try and have, right? Like, you know, but she was like, oh no, you don't understand. My parents are Korean, and they will never forgive me. They're going to blame me. And they're never going to forgive me. I'm like, well, okay, but I kind of talked her into, all right, well, at least let me kind of follow through with it. She did. And I had one guy right away, the guy sheet, but then we had a second DNA profile, and it took a couple of years for that to come through, which is not unusual for a variety of circumstances. The guy wasn't in CODIS, which is the DNA system, whatever. Yeah. But he finally does, and the state wouldn't charge the first guy until I found the second guy, and until we cleared up the second, because, you know, it's one of those things that's complicated. We don't have to get into, but the state wants to know fairly enough a lot of times that, well, he's not going to say something different or say something that's really going to script the case. So I get this second guy hits. I do some work on it. I find out that they were connected. They knew each other. And I'm like, okay, ready. I go looking for this girl. Can't find her. She moved back to South Korea and just was never responded. It just went away. You know what I mean? And
there were 2 male offender DNA profiles.
Correct.
Obtained from
the original guy who took her home, and then another guy who was unknown until the DNA, you know, hit. The profile was taken from her, you know. So
I wonder if those ever hit to other cases.
I don't know.
You know,
maybe, but it was just, you know, that's the kind of thing you're like, damn, man, this all. But that's life in a big city, man. You get a lot of things you're like, this freaking sucks.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you can't clear these cases. I mean,
yeah,
before I left, there was like 300,000 cases to manage a year, from thefts all the way to murders. It's a big caseload to manage.
It is. I mean, part of the reason for starting this podcast was, one, to kind of, you know, make it more about the victims. I don't think victims get enough credit. You know, if the murder's solved, and it's kind of, all right, that case is done, moving on, but never true for the family. And also the story of the victim, you know?
Sure. And that's what I love about your podcast, that you like interview family or friends that knew the victim. And I forgot the older lady's name.
Geneva Redding.
She was a pistol.
She was something else.
I loved
man.
hearing that case.
And her granddaughter something else too.
She didn't
awesome.
mess around, man.
No, man. No. She was something. I still hear from people on that, you know, and about her. But before we get too far away, because time is getting away, I don't want to keep you all night, but I do want to go through this a little bit with you, the progression, because for people that don't know or are listeners out there that wonder the progression. So you kind of
just keep talking about cases.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Funner.
We can.
It's more interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you were the chief of detectives, which is not just a big job in the Chicago Police Department, probably beyond superintendent, the most prestigious job, I think. And maybe it's because I'm a detective, and to me, being a detective was everything to me. But the chief of detectives to me was always like the real job. Like, superintendent's kind of political, you know, even if you're really good at it, like a Phil Klein, it's still, you got to have the you know, political, you know, kind of weight to get there. But there are other jobs, first deputy, but chief of detectives to me was always the job. You had to be competent. You had to really, the weight and scale of what comes up as heaters always comes through the detective division for the police department. It seems like, not every time, but so being chief of detective. So that progression for you, real quick, just to work you make sergeant. I was in pretty early.
Yeah, I was in. I had a team, a great team. With those bunch of those guys, Erod and all of them in 11, and then I went upstairs, did sex and DNA, and then I ended up getting promoted to lieutenant. I was in the 10th district. I had they made me the cap sergeant, and which was it's okay.
Community policing.
Yeah, community policing, which I didn't mind. And then a short time later, I became the TAC lieutenant in the 10th district, and then. I ended up, Hiram Grau called me and asked, we want you to come back to Area 4. And I'm like, I don't think the Skull and I are going to get along too well, Steve Peterson and I. And so he's like, I want you to go back there. So I did. And, Peterson and I worked it out. I mean, we were kind of like, a Steve Peterson, a commander at the time, Screaming Skull. Him and I were like a dysfunctional marriage. Either we loved each other or we wanted to beat the shit out of each other. It was.
We lost Steve Peterson a few years ago, but he's known as a Screaming Skull because he was thin, bald guy, and you always knew when he was in a room.
Oh yeah. So I went back to Area 4 as the homicide lieutenant, and then I. Went down. He got promoted to deputy soup, which is equal to the chief of detectives at the time, and I was his admin lieutenant, which is I handled that DNA with the blue car rapist. But he and I said, I didn't want to go down there. I didn't want to be like in an admin position. I wanted to be on the street. And Hiram's like, you got to help. You got to help him. You got to do the right thing. And so I went down there. I was his admin lieutenant for like 6 months or so, and then he let me go, and Jody Weiss was the soup at the time, and he was big into asset forfeiture, which I knew nothing about. And I ended up going to being the CO and the lieutenant in the asset forfeiture unit for, I don't know, a year or so. And then I got promoted, went to commander of 17. And then I was told there was a meeting about closing, opening up new district. For the first time, they were going to close down 2 old districts, 12 and 13, in old buildings, and moving into one new facility. And that was like the first time that was going to happen. And, some of the upper echelon, the superintendent at the time was like, who do you recommend to do that? And they said my name, which I was not happy about, but, I couldn't say no. And that was tough. It was tough. It was a huge district, closing 2, putting them into 1.
The major commander.
Yeah,
right?
And then I went from the commander of 17 to the commander of the 12th district, and, I go into roll call, and it would be like, okay, which side of the room is the 12th district? Which side is the 13th district coppers? Because you know how coppers are. And then I became the deputy chief for the whole area, for Area North, and I went downtown for a minute to be chief of patrols, administrative deputy chief. And Eddie Johnson came into my office one day. It was sunny out, and he told me, I'm going to make you the chief of Dix. And I got emotional, like I never thought. I was honored that he asked me to do that. We were sergeant peers together. Then I was his boss as a lieutenant. For him to and he's like, Liz, I feel like you really turned Area 4 into a well-oiled machine, and I want you to. And I probably shouldn't be saying this stuff because I was like, really, I didn't really think that of myself. And he's like, and I'd like you to be the chief of Dix, and I was honored. And so when I got in there, and after about a month, I quickly realized that it was not the detective division that I left when we were all there, Manpower had been decimated. I mean, historically, I looked at 20 years of data. I'm kind of a spreadsheet data junkie. And historically, we have 1,300. In the 1,300 detectives, and when I walked in the door, clearance rate 29%. And that was September 16th of 2016. Our clearance rate was 29%. Awful. When I left, it was 54. I mean, we still had much work to do, but you can't. I get that patrol is the backbone of the department. 100% get it, and I agree with it. But you can't decimate an entire bureau and expect crimes to get cleared. And so I really fought to get more detectives promoted, and we were in some trouble, Mike, because we lost so much experience in that by just decimating the bureau. I remember under that regime by a superintendent from the outside. I remember he made, if I remember correctly, 125 detectives at the very end of his tenure before he was fired. And I know my dress uniform got tight over the years, but to see these detectives walking across the stage, these were like a lot of them were old timers, like getting ready to retire. You know, how much are they going to really, you know,
influx the
yeah. And it was a mess. I mean, I'm so proud. You know, I feel like there's people out there that don't like me. I get it. I mean, you know, we're all human. But
fuck them.
Yeah, that's right. But
especially one in particular.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you can't come in and, I mean, at the time when I was doing all my analysis, I mean, New York and LA we had double the murders of LA and New York and triple the shootings. It basically means somebody got shot but they didn't die. And New York and LA had like double or triple the detective manpower. And their clearance rates, 50, 60%. Well, why is that? Because you can't, how are you going to investigate all these crimes? I mean, the detectives were like inundated. And then he shut down the areas. I mean, it was just.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And what ends up happening is, everybody is constant. What few detectives you have are working on murders and sexual assaults and that. But look, some guy who gets knocked down and gets his ass kicked by somebody for no reason, that case is really important to him, right? It needs it takes a detective to find that guy, investigate it, whatever. Yeah. It's nearly impossible with the manpower
with your caseload. Yeah, you said the guy not going to get.
Yeah, I mean, so people end up not getting the police service that they expect and they deserve because there isn't enough manpower. And there are patrolmen out there that do great investigative work because 100%. They know their neighborhood, they know the area they work in, but they're inundated with calls for service and having to be places. So you really create this gap, a vacuum of stuff. It's a bad situation, but well, I just want to say, I got a couple things that I wanted to mention here, and I don't want to get all too, but to tell you the type of boss that Melissa was to work for. I mean, we were all like, we were like, oh, not her. Jesus.
Oh, Jesus Christ, abroad. She's banned for the other team. She's abroad. Oh, shit.
Yeah. When we first heard the rumor that you were going to be promoted to chief of Dicks, we're like, no chance they put somebody that good there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. And then when you got it, we were just like, wow, that's great. But on a personal level, you and I have been friends a long time. And that friendship, I think, is based out of a couple of things. One, we always wanted to kind of do the right thing. We're Hoosiers, so we got that hillbilly blood in us that makes us thick.
Makes us the best.
Irritates people. But we also had a real strong desire to see these cases get solved. Absolutely right. And I talked to these guys, friends of mine that work for you on the tech team. Same story, like laughing all the time, making jokes, making fun of each other. That's the life, right? I mean,
it's the best medicine, laughter.
And you were the same person when I met you as those guys, Sergeant in 11. I think this is the best compliment that I could pay someone in the police department if you get it. And probably out the other lines of work, it's the same, right? But you're the same person when I met you as that tech sergeant as when you became chief of detectives.
I'm just a lot fatter. And I appreciate that. It's like we are all human beings first. I don't think I'm any smarter or better than anyone because I was chief. I was blessed to be put in that position. It was very hard. That was the condition of the detective division that was the D was left in. It was difficult. Like I didn't know after a month if I'm like I told them this is a mess. I didn't say it in those words, but I'll tell you what, and it's not just me. I might have been the chief, but I'll tell you, Rick Weiser, best partner I ever had on this job. He and that's no insult to everybody else, but at that level, with that amount of stress, with 1,300 people, it's not like I have a tag team, which the tag teams were fantastic, or the district or whatever. But Rick Weiser was a very big part of the changes that we made in the D. It took us 8 months to get that police shooting team up and running. And I'll tell you this: one of my favorite quotes is from Colin Powell, and he said, "The day the troops stop bringing their problems to you, you've lost them. Yeah, right. They think you don't care." Or
they don't respect your opinion.
Yeah, you're a crappy leader.
Right, yeah.
Detective Mike Kielka, this guy came to me and said, we need tech centers. And everyone knows I'm not the biggest tech person. And he spelled it out to me. We need tech centers in the area with go bags that have the technology to go out and pull video. And I'm not the reason that those ATC rooms exist. It's Mike Kielka. He saw it through. that I have his back with the funding, the grants, all of it to get those areas up and running and get the manpower from patrol. He was the brains behind it. I was like the influence behind it, like trying to close the deal with all the funding and everything. And, opening the areas that took from day one. I said, we need to open the areas. And, I got along well with Rahm Emanuel, and he totally supported us in getting those areas back open. He understood it, and he was, and it took 3.5 years to get them going. So I'm really, Rick Weiser, Rockstar, and Mike Kielka, ATC. It's like getting the right people in the right seats on the bus to help make the Bureau a better place. And there was still a ton of work to be done when I left.
Yeah, well, of course, you're underselling your own responsibility in that because I'm
just trying to steer a ship.
Yeah, but I mean, like those data centers, I can't. The dramatic shift that has made for the people of the city of Chicago, having those data centers in the districts is amazing. And what they are basically, I don't know what they started out as, what they've become are like, you have officers assigned in there, and they're just looking at beautiful's not the word, but big screens, and they are hooked to cameras, and they got real-time information of events happening, and they can get coppers to scenes quickly. I mean, your best chance now in the city of Chicago, if you are the victim of something or you get hurt or anything like that, is those data centers, unless a copper happens to be driving by, because we're short of people. The manpower is being shifted all over the city, away from a lot of places. You're a business owner. I mean, you see this acutely, right? I mean, so that is an amazing accomplishment is what I'm trying to get at.
Remember back in the day when we would watch videos for hours and hours. It was like watching paint dry, just waiting, like when is, they're trying to capture some.
You'd have to real time watch 24 hours of video.
Yeah, totally. And Mike brought this technology, which I refer to as witchcraft. I think it's called, it starts with a G. I can't remember what it is, but
probably me.
You could pop in a video, you could give me a CD, and Mike would pop it into a computer, and the offender's wearing orange shorts. You punch in orange shorts. It takes you right to the video of anyone that's wearing orange shorts. Oh, yeah. You got a bike. You're looking for a bus or a green bike. You put that in. The bike travel kitty corner across the street. Takes you right to it. It was just amazing technology.
Yeah, like that.
Actually, I think Mike actually works for the company now.
Yeah, right.
He's going to text me later and say, "This is the name of the company, dummy."
You're like, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, it was a great experience. The job was not easy. I think it was much easier years ago. I think I just walked into a shit show where it was completely ignored for years, and the manpower was completely. I mean, it was fucked up, Mike. It was like I was after like 30 days, I was ready to go to Eddie and be like, I don't want to do this. Put me somewhere else because this is a fucked up mess. But I kept pushing.
I just the point being that as we progress down this rabbit hole of societal ills, the narcotics issues, the narcotics driven
mental
health. Can we afford to not have people on the streets? One of the things that was really surprising to me about our last episode was a conversation about the SWAT team showing up and really having to determine whether or not this was a mental health issue. And I think that as we see this play out, can we afford to not have more policemen on the street? And can we afford to not have more policemen that are trained to, and I know the argument is this isn't their job, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of becoming their job, right? Having men and women on the streets trained to deal and de-escalate situations.
Well, the reality
crisis intervention, it's tough.
Yeah. And the reality is, I mean, even mental health issue things, unless you're going to train policemen as psychologists or train psychologists as law enforcement officers, policemen have to go first to make sure it's safe,
right?
Because because somebody is having a bad mental health day doesn't mean they get hurt other people, right? So they have to be stopped first, and the scene has to be secured. Sometimes that doesn't work out like you'd like, right? Because the guy's out there with a butcher knife and he's got to be stopped, and police have to do what they have to do, and then everybody's upset. I mean, it's tough. It goes back to the conversation we've had 100 times, and it will always be true. People don't accept it. Police departments are not set up and cannot solve all of society's ills, but we expect them to, expect the department to. Can't solve mental health, can't solve addiction issues, can't solve poverty issues. We're reactive and we're front line, and we're going to bear the brunt of all of the negative shit that comes with it. I'm not crying the blues because fuck it. I mean, we chose to do this job and we're trying to do the job. But the reality is it irritates me to always hear the police department we got politicians that go to jail here like it's fucking free in this state. Nobody really seems to pay it any mind other than it makes the news. But a policeman does something that, okay, maybe he shouldn't have done, or maybe looks bad on camera, and it's everywhere for months and months. It's like, all right, well, you see why I'm irritated with this? Because it's like, this is bullshit. It's out of whack. But I'm sorry to go off on that tangent. But
no, that's okay.
And
it's tough. Our jobs are not easy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. And I'm crying the blues. I shouldn't be. It's just we're trying to raise some level of insight here. And so I don't know. I don't really have much more. What did I miss?
Me.
I miss you. Yes.
No, I think we pretty much covered the bases, you know. I don't know. I mean, it was a great experience. I loved patrol, but my heart was the experience in the detective division, and I'm forever grateful for the experience. And this career was very difficult at times, but it's been good to me. And you know, now it's time to go back to the country and have some chickens, and you know, do a little animal rescue. And
I like that. I mean, I like that.
Quiet.
Did you have chickens growing up?
I did not. No, we didn't really grow up on a farm. Grew up in the woods. My dad worked for a power company.
Chickens wouldn't like him.
I mean, no, you're right. Although I will say, when we were talking about busting balls in area 4, how it's tough. You got to be. I'm pretty thick skinned. I can give it, take it, right? One day,
when you give it, it's not like it's a zinger, because you're not one to like really get up on somebody and like throw a shot. But when you throw it, it's like
it's pretty good.
And I catch them.
It's an A+
too. But one day, I sometimes you step in it, right, and you can't help it. It just happens.
You can't
You're like,
unstep.
God damn! I walked into the homicide office one day, and our famous boss, our mentor, our hero, this guy,
John Farrell.
Yeah, I don't have his permission, but
I'm going to say
sure
John
he doesn't
Farrell.
care, right? He's a legend and my mentor and friend, but whatever. The biggest ball buster I ever met, and good at it, and could take it. But boy, if you're throwing shots that way, boy, you better have
better
the
be
red
ready.
man gear on, because it's coming back. Well, one day I walk in the office and not really paying attention. I've got things on my mind, whatever. And he goes, "Hey, Mike, did you ever eat a squirrel?" Before I could think about it, you know what I mean? I've tasted squirrel. You know what I mean? I grew up in Indiana, like in the woods, like people hunted squirrels and ate them. And man, as soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, pay attention, Mike. I'm thinking to myself and they went, I was Vail. These guys are in there, man. And it was like, you hillbilly, you ate a, I mean, it's like, you see him dead on the damn road. It was weeks of this. Like,
So you really ate a squirrel?
I tasted a squirrel. Yeah.
He ate it.
You know what? If I would have known that, I might not have shown up here.
It was just last week.
I mean, I had a pony, we had rabbit hutches, but I didn't eat a squirrel. You know, shame on you, because I saved 2 baby squirrels yesterday. We saved 2 baby squirrels.
I mean, when you grow up in
I
the
should have
woods,
just brought them here, huh?
The worst thing about it is he sat on the front step for like an hour and a half with nuts getting it closer to him.
with my banjo. Yeah. Now I don't get all my people in Indiana pissed at me now.
He's just throwing little scraps.
And we can poke fun at ourselves. I mean, other people do. It's like,
no.
Doesn't matter what
that
you're
same
about
guy
as long as you get this
likes to
thick
tell
skin.
people that I'm the highest scoring hillbilly to ever take the detective's exam.
Well,
And then he gives it a beat and he says, but he's only the second one to ever pass it.
right?
My man.
I love Indiana. I loved I love the simple life out there.
Yeah, it's a good life.
Yeah,
And
the
you're not
smells,
that-
the sounds.
Yeah, you're not that far out there, really.
No,
you know?
I mean, I had a summer place for the last 20 years, and yeah, I'm going back. You know,
Good.
yeah. You get to that age where you're just like,
My kids still remember being out on your that boat, not boat, whatever, that not catamaran. What do you call those things?
pontoon.
Pontoon. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
See, I'm a city boy now.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
That's it.
Yeah.
It was great to see you, and
Yeah.
you and I chatted months ago
Yeah.
on a cell phone call, and I could tell you're a good egg with a good heart, and I could see why you guys are buds.
It's fantastic. It's great to finally meet you.
It's great to finally meet you.
Thank you.
And the only thing I'm disappointed about is you didn't have your Lucky Run DMC hat on tonight.
Went
Maybe next
Chromex,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, right. That's why the cameras or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to wear it next time.
You
When
got
I,
it.
when I drag John Farrell in here
You got
and Eddie Johnson.
Right. I'd love to have those guys in here, but I love you and thank you for coming in.
I love you too. You're a good man with a good heart, and you do
Appreciate
the right
it.
thing, regardless if anyone's looking. You do the right thing.
Yeah.
You got a heart of gold.
Right. That's not always true, but okay. Thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah, and that his tone of his voice. If I ever become an insomniac, you're the guy I'm going to call.
That's
I'm like,
right.
Can you just talk to me for
Right.
like 10 minutes?
That's my favorite anti-compliment. Oh, your voice. I like to go to sleep listening to your voice.
is.
You know, I'm talking about
You
murders,
just got
right?
that voice. No one's going to want to fall asleep to my voice, but yours. They're like,
I was
"Man,
taking a nap a little earlier.
they should put your voice
right,
in like,
right in the middle of the episode.
Yeah.
you know, the teddy bears when they
so.
like push the button and it like makes a sound or it talks to you. It should be Mike Hammond's voice. Yeah.
I know several people in this world who that's their worst nightmare. But anyway, thank you
It's
so
only
much. It
Awesome.
was a lot of fun.
And hey, it's been a long time. It's been years since we've seen each other, and I'm honored to come here and support you and chat.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's
Appreciate
an honor
it.
to have you here.
All right.